Hello everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. It's been a little bit. The weather has been fairly quiet for the last 7 to 10 days, roughly. Um, but that is going to change very quickly, and it's going to be a very active. It seems like it could be a very active next few weeks across the Ohio Valley, lower Great Lakes, down through Tennessee Valley, down to the deep south, and even the plains, possibly. Um, It seems like the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, sort of the eastern parts of the Midwest are getting just slammed over and over again with these severe weather setups. So this is going to be for Sunday. This is our day three outlook here, and this is for Sunday. And we see already a pretty large enhanced risk from the Texas, Arkansas border, Louisiana, far northern Louisiana, all the way up to the lower Great Lakes, reaching as far east as like Lexington and Wilmington, Ohio, and um, far west past St. Louis. So a very large area of this enhanced risk, but even the slight risk. And I'll be focusing on the Ohio Valley, Ohio, some of central Kentucky, West Virginia as well, but you can see the slight risk even goes up towards Canada there, and then down through southern Louisiana. And then we can see here our hatched area of potential significant severe weather, um, essentially where that enhanced risk is. Well, I am going to start with the upper air maps here, and we're going to see what's going on. We're going to see, we're going to compare these models to each other and kind of see the differences here or similarities. So this is the GFS. This is the new model that's coming out this morning. The Euro model, I'll be using last night's run, and then I think I'm going to use one more model, and I will explain why. So here's the GFS, and I'm just going to slowly, let me kind of adjust this. Let me zoom in a little bit here for you, and I'm going to just slowly go through this. So we see this is this evening, and what I want to look at here is this energy across Arizona, and then maybe southern California, and even south of California. This energy right here is going to be injected into the plains, like Oklahoma, Kansas. It's going to be injected eastward, and we're going to see that right now. As this moves eastward, we can see this trough start to form here, and this little short wave. And as it moves eastwards, we can see it really start to strengthen. And we have winds approaching 80 knots at our 500 millibar level here. And this is Sunday morning here, the day of the event. And as we go into early Sunday afternoon, we can see our slightly negatively tilted trough here. It's it's not very distinct here. It's uh, definitely more of a shortwave sort of event, not a full amplitude trough, but we can see still 80 knot winds, and then our exit region here, um 60-65 knot winds possible in our exit region of this little shortwave, and our exit region is kind of in this area right here, across Indiana, southern Illinois, central Kentucky, western Ohio, southeastern Missouri even, and then further on to the afternoon, that threat can sort of advance slightly more south into Tennessee and Mississippi. But mid Sunday afternoon, we can see this energy sort of move up through the Great Lakes, and by, Monday, we can see a more deep trough here start to form below our initial shortwave. Here's our shortwave, and we can see our the steady plume of energy, wind energy, still being fed into this, and we can see it sort of develop into this secondary sort of back end trough here for Monday's event across, the Carolinas, deep south, even upwards, northeast through Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, in that area, which I will be making a separate video on possibly tomorrow. But right now, I'm going to just be focusing on the Ohio Valley region. So we can see the GFS here. By 7 o'clock, we can see the main part of our energy is over St. Louis, Indianapolis. Let's look at the euro here. Let's look at the euro. See what the euro has here. So this is Sunday morning. Well, first let's kind of see this energy. We can still, as the GFS was saying, we have this energy across Arizona and south of California, pretty similar. And then once that gets moved eastward, we can see it. Here's the euro. Not as We can still see this negatively sort of tilted shortwave here. Not as strong as the GFS actually, and as we move on through the day, this is a Sunday evening. We can see 70 to 80 knot plume. It's definitely slower. The euro seems to be a lot slower. Um, let me. Sorry. So here is the euro. We can see the main batch of that energy is central Missouri through St. Louis. It's not as far east as the GFS. We can see it's slightly even more south, possibly, but we can see the bulk of this energy is a little bit more of it's faster, more progressive, and that tends to be a GFS bias this far out. But I think the most important thing here is that the winds are relatively the same, around 70 to 80 knots. The positioning, yeah, it's a little off, but we can agree that strength wise, very similar. And as we move on, we can see this really start to we can see this that second half energy that I was talking about on the GFS kind of move in behind the shortwave. Here is the shortwave here. We can see the back end energy through here, and it sort of amplifies the secondary trough below this first one, and that's going to create a lot of actually instability and moisture intake across the Carolinas and deep south. And Monday I could see a possibility of a decent tornado threat across this region, but that's a little too far out to really detail. But really, the main thing is they're very similar um, with the overall idea and pattern. So that is definitely definitely a good sign. I do want to check. I do want to check. This is the UK model. Usually this model isn't particularly well or used as much as the GFS or Euro, but however, the last few systems I have noticed, and many others have noticed, it has done fairly well. So I am going to look at this one too. This is also from last night's. This is from last night's run. And as we move on here, Sunday afternoon, uh, we see this energy across Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. It's not as not as well defined, not as strong. You don't really see that sort of real. I mean, it's negatively tilted, sort of, yeah, but not as defined as the GFS from the Euro. Um, and as it moves up, you can see that back end energy. It still sees that, and then as it moves across Monday. Maybe even this could be a little slower. The second back trough here, this energy could be a little slower compared to the GFS and Euro, but we can see that impacts the southern area of the country. Um, so yeah, definitely seems to be a little off compared to the GFS and Euro just a little bit, but has the same overall idea. Next, I really want to look at the moisture here. This is very important, and the reason why our last few setups across the Ohio Valley have failed is the lack of moisture and the lack of having stabilization. Lots of just cloud cover, lack of moisture, lack of thermodynamics. So this time it could be slightly different. We'll have to see how these models sort of handle the data in the next few days. But let's look at the moisture here. So Saturday night we can see our cold front through here. We see our cold front go through the middle of the plains. Um, and as we approach Sunday afternoon, we can see a very wide warm sector here across central Missouri and the southern Great Lakes through mid Ohio and Kentucky already by afternoon. As we advance this later in the afternoon, this is mid-afternoon, we can see that warm sector even reach into West Virginia. So and even further north into Michigan and mid 60s to even lower 70s across the deep south. As we move on to the night, we can see the swarm sector begin to kind of fade away into Monday. And then, of course, the mid-Atlantic states are under gun for Monday. Again, that will be discussed in a later video. But we can see the GFS has a fairly pronounced warm sector in the 60s, lower 60s, central Ohio, Kentucky, all the way through Springfield, Illinois, St. Louis, and further south. So decently impressive with the dew points here. Let's look at the switch back to the euro here. I'm not going to use the UK model to look at the look at the moisture, but so this is the euro model, and as this is Sunday morning, right here, Sunday morning, as we go on to the afternoon. So this is early Sunday afternoon, and not as pronounced. The warm sector is not as large, and it's not as strong. However, we do still see some low 60s across central Kentucky, central Indiana, most of Illinois at this time. And as we move on to the afternoon, this is early evening here. This is mid-afternoon. Let me. Oh no, it's 18Z. So yeah, okay. Early evening here, we can see that warm sector starts fading away. Most of Kentucky and maybe southern Ohio, Indiana, Illinois still under a fairly impressive warm sector, but not as strong as the GFS. The GFS seems to be a lot more strong with that moisture advection northward. So this is this model here is our NAM 3K. It's a short range model. It's finally in range. Some I do want to look at the dew point here. So this is Sunday morning around 10 a.m. right here. And yeah, okay, the NAM here is on board with the GFS with how far and how strong these dew points, even on mid 60s, reaching southern Indiana, uh, southern central Illinois, and then even parts of western Kentucky. But very impressive here. And as we move on through the day, this only goes so long. We can see this warm sector sort of move by, 4 or 5 p.m. We can see our low 60s across West Virginia now, Pennsylvania, our mid 60s just, you know, all over the place in Indiana and central Ohio and Kentucky. Even 70s starting, oh, sorry, it's even 70s starting to creep in. Um, this is where the model um, time frame ends, but pretty impressive warm sector, even mid 60s into southern Michigan. So we can look at our precipitation type. This is just what the model, with the data it has now, as of this morning, it spits out a output um, up to 60 hours, as we can see it right here. This is what the radar could look like according to the current data this model has as of this morning. Now, it's important the further we go on, into the model run, the less accurate it could be. But Sunday morning, this is around 7 a.m. right here. We can see some morning sort of rainfall across Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia. Will this impact depending on the timing, will this impact severe weather across this region for Sunday afternoon through the night? Absolutely, it could. We just don't know that yet. I mean, it's a few days out still, and as the models get closer, we can get a better idea. But seems by like early morning, most of that rain moved out, and we can see some scattered sort of maybe convective showers and maybe even thunderstorms. But what's really interesting here by 4 p.m., I'm going to take a sounding around Huntington, West Virginia. Yeah, we have very good cape, over 2,000 surface cape. This is fairly impressive for this region at this time of year. You don't normally, this time of year across the Ohio Valley, we don't normally have high thermo severe events like this. That's usually, May and June. April, March, April, we're normally getting thermo, or excuse me, highly kinematic events where our shear, our wind, you see here, our shear and wind is usually up to 50, 60 knots. And um, yeah, that main sort of energy hasn't really reached this area yet at this point, but um, we can see the fat cape layer here. See how it kind of sort of, it goes all the way up towards 12 kilometers up in the air. And we can see it's not really, I mean, it's not too skinny. It has a pretty good, you know, depth of moisture and instability across our atmosphere. And then you can see a possible hazard type tornado. I don't normally look at that too much. It just spits out what the output thinks it will be. But yeah, I mean, kinematically wise, it doesn't look impressive at all. I mean, we still have our sort of clockwise sort of movement here, little hook, and but really, what's impressive is this cape, and um, we don't, like I said, we don't normally see that, but I think the limiting thing here is that morning convection is really going to mess up, I think, the development of these sort of convective showers and thunderstorms. Um, and we can even like, for an example, we can see just this is like, an example. This isn't going to happen, but at the direct same place. But we can see a little cell here, and then as we move on, it sort of just kind of weakens. So that's something to look at. Something to look at, something to watch for. That could really limit severe weather across this sort of eastern part of the region of West Virginia, eastern Ohio, eastern Kentucky. But as we around 4 p.m. again, I'm going to take a sounding near Indianapolis here. We see the kinematic is a little bit better, slightly better here. Our thermos are pretty good. We can see a little bit of sin, which means a little bit more forcing needs to take place to break through that stable air. Yeah, I mean it's pretty impressive this time of year to have this sort of type of event, and we can look at this actually. Surface-based cape. This is 4 p.m. Sunday, and we can see a really nice swath of 2,500 joules per kilogram through central, or excuse me, through western Indiana, central and southern Illinois, and further south. And as we move on through the model run here, and we can see these 1,000 to 2,000 sort of joules per kilogram reach mid Ohio, central Ohio, central Kentucky as well. We can look at the mixed layer cape here as well. Yeah, I mean, again, so we have enough surface-based cape. Our surface-based cape is certainly enough, and then if we go look at our mixed layer, yeah, we still have enough here as well, more than enough. Look at a surface-based lifted index. This is just this helps kind of sort of pinpoint the locations where the most lift is possible. Um, we can see here, yeah, we can cross central Indiana, um, Illinois as well, southern Illinois, even western Kentucky, southeastern Missouri, even possibly up to central and then western Ohio. That this region here looks to be very um, probable with the potential tornadoes. I wouldn't be surprised if this sort of area up through here gets highlighted for a potential upgraded tornado risk for Sunday. We'll see though. Kinematically, again, doesn't look great. Um, so it may not mean too much, but we'll see. This is I just like to look at this just to sort of get an idea tornado risk here, and then yeah, I mean, throughout the day Sunday, we can see Indiana, Illinois, Western Kentucky, Central Kentucky, sort of have that increased risk for just potential tornado activity. Nothing. This doesn't mean really anything. Um, just means that there is a highlighted risk for possible tornadic activity, and we can even see by end of the model run here some pretty high values up towards 5 to 6 move northeastward towards Kentucky, western Kentucky, and southern Indiana. But again, taking this with a grain of salt. Um, the setup has a few issues with it, especially across western West Virginia and then eastern Ohio and Kentucky. Will that morning rain move out and and allow the sun to come out and really juice up that atmosphere? Because if we get a discrete storm across western central Kentucky and it moves northeastward into this area through here, especially when the sun's been out, it could produce some decently large hail as well, with a possible spin up or two, and that's something we'll have to look at. Is um, will we have discrete activity across this region through here? Because a lot of this seems to be more of a linear event as of now. Some discrete activity is possible, but we just as it gets closer, we'll determine sort of that um, sort of threat. But really, I think a threat for tornadoes and very large hail up to baseball size really exists in this enhanced risk. I can see tornadoes even happening southern Arkansas, central Mississippi. Although I feel like the greatest tornado risk is going to be in this sort of um, western part of the enhanced risk here. Um, central Indiana, central Illinois, southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, sort of western Kentucky, sort of in this area here. I think we'll have the best tornado risk as that exit region of that shortwave really amplifies and moves into that region. by afternoon and evening. Assuming this isn't all linear by then, but if any discrete cell, like I said, really forms in this area, and even eastward towards central Kentucky and Ohio, it could produce some decently large hail and even a quick spin up or two. I wouldn't be shocked. But I will continue to look at this. If anything else really interests me, I'll make a video. This might be the only video I make for the Ohio Valley area. I'd say main threats for now is damaging winds up to 65 miles per hour, uh, golf ball sized hail, and then maybe an isolated tornado or two. Um, just sort of your typical spring. Well, it's not really typical because this is a very thermo driven event, but typical spring sort of hazards, I should say. But um, I also do want to look at this. This is just kind of a different source I use here, just to give me a better idea. We can see the National Weather Service risk here, and this is the Colorado State University sort of severe output they use, and their output highlights really southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, eastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, even parts of southern Illinois, closer to the central part of Illinois. But yeah, this is, don't take this with a lot of seriousness. I mean, take it serious, but don't go off this and say, this is where the most or the worst severe weather is going to happen. That's just not the right thing to do at this point of time. Given this is still uh 2 days, 2 or 3 days out. Um, so I'll be watching this. I think this is just a Tennessee Valley sort of Western Ohio Valley event, especially. But yeah, and then Monday, like I said, this threat kind of sort of moves to the Mid-Atlantic. So, and I'll show that right now, just real quick, and then we can see day 4. That threat moves to the Mid-Atlantic, and even parts of the Ohio Valley might see maybe even another round by Monday early afternoon potentially, or in late morning. But I'll get into that in the next video. Hope everyone has a good day. Stay safe, and just keep an eye on this weather. It's going to be fairly active the next few weeks, so be weather aware.